we're going to go ahead and jump into some tech stories. And the first one is just I guess a continuation of just what's going on. I mean, the biggest news in America this summer is, Roe falling in the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of tech stuff that's related to it. We talked about some of that last week, but this one I thought, this story I thought was really interesting because Google, what they're doing is they're going to start deleting, visits to abortion clinics, domestic violence shelters, weight loss clinics, and other potentially sensitive locations from users' location data. So they're saying it doesn't matter if it's an abortion clinic, doesn't matter if it's, a medical facility. We are not going to keep that data. We don't want to use it. And I just thought that was really interesting to see how these big tech companies are responding specifically to, this court ruling, but also it looks like they're actually starting to think about how they keep your data a little differently, because all data ain't necessarily good data based off of, how they might be potentially subpoenaed for it or might even be sued for it, depending on what state you're in. So I wanted to get you guys' take on that.
So the question is Google doing this because they care about their users' data and they care about their privacy and they want to make sure that no users can have their data used against them in the court of law? Or is it B, we ain't trying to get sued, so it's better we don't have the data at all.
Just don't even have it.
Versus having it and then having the government or the feds or whomever come and get it, and then we give it over. And then as a result of that, we get this negative press for being snitches, for lack of a better term.
Right.
we go just keep it 100 right here. It's all of that, in my opinion. It's all of that.
I think it's a little bit of that. I mean, I know there were a couple senators or maybe representatives. There were a couple of politicians in DC that called Google and Apple out specifically and asked them to start really looking at some of their data policies and seeing where they can, do a little zig or zag or whatever. So this could be in response to that as well, just trying to gain some social capital with the folks in DC. I think it has a lot to do with that as well, covering CYA, basically. They covering their own butt. So we never had the data in the first place, so we can't be held liable for what it is. I thought it was interesting that search histories will remain on file indefinitely because, currently that is the data that's actually been used to prosecute and convict women around buying abortion pills or visiting abortion clinics. It's been the search history, not necessarily the location data. I mean, this is a start, obviously, because I think as prosecutors in these red states get more sophisticated and learn that there's more data that they have access to, they will take advantage of that. But we still got to do something about them search histories too.
Mm-hmm. My gut tells me, why are they looking at location data right now? That's probably not where they're making most of their money. Search, as you said, that is where Google makes its money. When you search for stuff, that is putting nickels and dimes and dollars into their bank account. So as I said, I think, Terrence, just to, reiterate, the question you asked, I think it is some of all of that. Is Google saying we really need to do this because this is what's best for our consumers? I don't know that the decision happens like that. It's like,
has a company ever done that? Has any company ever done what's best for their
consumers? There may be some that do that.
Thing to do,
there may be companies out there that are really in tune with their customers like that, and they do that. I don't want to say that there's no company, but let's just talk about most companies. And I think we're going to put Google into most companies. Somebody is sitting there thinking, it's like, wow, this is what's happening to our consumers.
What can we do? That don't also mess with our bottom line? If it don't mess with our bottom line,
right? We want to appear sensitive and appear as though we care.
If we mess with our bottom line, then it's complicated.
Right. Well, because they made the point in one of the articles that the data that they're deleting is data that, companies could buy, or law enforcement or prosecutors could buy from a data broker in the open market anyway. So you deleting it doesn't necessarily mean that they still don't have access to it. Also, they say deletion will happen soon. after the visit. They don't say how soon. And because they can still be compelled to turn the data over via search warrant, if they haven't deleted it yet, they still have it on file to give it to police and prosecution anyway. So, you know, it's a lot of little intricacies and loopholes in this whole thing. And it definitely feels more like, to your point, Terrence, optics than anything else.
So the fact that they can still be subpoenaed before the data, because it's not instantaneous, it's like, you know, they have to actually, oh, this is where you were. Let's go remove that out of the system. However long that takes, there is a time when it is in the system. And the other thing, too, you can't just see this news headline, because this one made it across, it wasn't just a text story. This made it across. It was on CNN. It was on MSNBC. It was on, it was on everything, when this headline came out. You can't rely on that. You still need to do things to protect yourself. Google shouldn't have to delete your location data, because your location data shouldn't be in Google when you're doing things where you don't want your location data to ultimately potentially be subpoenaed. That is how you have to start thinking about things. It's like the location data can never be there in the first place. You need to do everything you can do to keep your data out. And what I really liked about this, it wasn't just about, one thing. It was about, I don't want my location data if I'm going to maybe get like gastric bypass. I don't want my location out there if I'm going to get maybe plastic surgery,
if I'm going to a domestic violence shelter. That should have been the default from the beginning with with domestic violence shelters. Like,
absolutely with that, you do not want that information out there, because it can be used if you're being stalked like that, and we know that women and men, to a lesser extent, this stuff happens. I'm just trying to be politically correct.
Let's keep it 100.
Women,
On the flip
women
side,
are getting tracked and LoJacked and this and that and the other.
But I say that, but I read a story. I don't know if we even talked about it on the show, but a couple weeks ago, a woman confronted her boyfriend in a bar and had an altercation because, of course, he was in the bar with his side piece. The bar kicks them, all three of them, out. They continue to argue in the parking lot or on the street. The girlfriend gets in the car, runs the boyfriend over multiple times. I read that
headline, yeah.
And the reason how this all started was because she LoJacked him, quote unquote, with the AirPod, with the AirTag. So I say women get tracked, and I say women get jumped.
It's everybody.
But it's everybody, if I'm keeping it on.
It's everybody, unfortunately.
You got to be careful with those AirTags, because I believe, and Terrence, you may be able to talk better than this than I can, but I believe that there is a message that'll pop up on your phone if there is an AirTag that is near you consistently. It doesn't recognize. It'll pop up and let you know. It's like, hey, here's something here.
Yeah. I had a social media friend of mine who over the past week, she was traveling internationally, and she got that notification to where something is unauthorized. I forget the actual term of how it goes, but her phone notified her that somebody had an AirPod in the area. She, of course, naturally flying overseas, international, freaked out. Just based on her tweets. I haven't talked to her personally yet, but just based on her tweets, she tried to let somebody and the airlines know. They was kind of like, She tried to let the airport know where she was at, what was going on. They were kind of like, they held her up for a couple hours, but ultimately they couldn't do nothing. It took for her to get to her hotel, rummage through all of her stuff to finally find this AirTag. Then, of course, she don't know where it came from. But I guess the frustrating part for her was nobody was like, oh, this is the process.
There was no sense of urgency.
Or they didn't have no official process. All right, if you find this, this is what you do, A, B, C. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to keep you notified. It was kind of like, well, we don't know what to do, so deal with it.
And that's the problem. They don't. And the thing with Apple, I don't know, and you could probably answer this better, Terrence, at one point, you had between 4 and 24 hours before you would get notified at all that an AirTag, unauthorized AirTag was there. They've shortened that, but there's still a window. There's still a pretty significant window where somebody could be stalking you before you even get the notification.
Right. So, and that notification wasn't in the original. They had pushback, and they were like, to make things better, we're going to add this notification. Yep. And then they said, okay, well, what about people who have Androids? And they get all right, so we'll add something for Androids.
They added an app for them.
The fact that Apple added an app for Android let you know that this is a pretty big deal. And you're seeing it, all the time. And like you said, this airport didn't pay attention or didn't really react necessarily in the way they should have reacted. Unfortunately, it's going to take something happening to someone who said something to the airport. It's going to take something happening to someone who said something to authorities. And then after the facts, I even told y'all that this was happening, that I was, somebody is stalking me. You didn't do anything. You sent me on my merry way. And then this happened. So what's going, how does the world work? When that bajillion-dollar lawsuit comes, then of course it'll become a priority, for these organizations. And it's just the way, the way it is. You would hope that people will be a little bit more proactive about making sure people are safe with these tiny little things. Literally, somebody can just slip it in your pocket and you don't know it's there, and they're following you around.
And two, just to reiterate from the story, turn your location data off, wherever you're going. If you think you're going somewhere that is sensitive, just turn the location data off on your phone. Don't rely on whatever Google says they're doing to delete that data, because they shouldn't be saving it in the first place. So turn it off.